So in the world of manifestation speak, you may have heard a lot about collapsing timelines and shifting realities and all these other fancy terms that people use to describe the process of getting into the right state in order for you to manifest. But sometimes I think we get so caught up in trying to manifest that we really get lost in all of these different ways that creators are describing, collapsing timelines and shifting realities. We can overthink those phrases and we can forget how simple all of this really is. So in today's video, I really want to break down the difference between living in the end, as Neville Goddard put it, versus living for the end, which is the mistake that a lot of different people who are trying to manifest make. And today we're really going to clarify the difference. What is the difference between living in this waiting state, this waiting for the end, living for the end, which is not really going to get you anything in the 3D, versus living in the end, accepting that you are who you say you are, accepting that you are the love that you're manifesting or that you are the success that you're manifesting. We're really going to clarify the difference here because the two can actually feel sometimes a little bit similar. This living for the end can feel sometimes accidentally similar to living in the end. And so this might clarify for you if you have been making mistakes or if you feel like, oh my God, I've been doing this so long and I see no results. Today, we're really going to break it down and it's going to be clear to you what you need to do to shift realities or collapse timelines, because really all that means is that when you collapse a timeline, all that means is, oh, I'm living in a different identity. I'm living in a different energy when it comes to these different topics of my life that I'm manifesting. So therefore, I've collapsed the timeline of the old sad story. That's now collapsed. Now I'm in the end of a new story. So we're going to get deep into this today, and it is my intention that just by you watching this video, it is infused into you your wish fulfilled. You are going to be instantly transported into your own wish fulfilled, not living for the end, but living in the end. This video is naturally going to give that to you. So just sit back and absorb and enjoy. Quickly, before we get into it today, I will introduce myself to any of you who maybe don't know me yet. My name's Genevieve. I'm a manifestation teacher, a spiritual teacher, an energy healer, and I just want manifestation to be healthy for you and therefore effective, because it really isn't going to be that effective long term if you're not doing it in a healthy way. So I'm here to break down the nuances for you. I have courses all listed down below. There's lots of different courses that can help you with different topics or different things in your life that maybe you're struggling with. So if you like me as a coach, you can do a course, you can do private coaching with me. And I have a different sort of announcement to make in this segment of the video. I am going to be leading an in-person women's manifestation group in Colorado. So I'm going to get into the details of that at the end of this video because it's kind of a lot and a lot of you guys do not want to see me ramble about this. So at the very end of the video, if you are in Colorado, if you know anyone who would be interested who's in Colorado, stay tuned to hear about the details of that. It's going to be a really cool in-person women's manifestation group. I'm so excited to do it. But again, I'll talk about that at the end, or you can just check out the link to the form, the application form. It's down in the description below. So you can also just go check that out. So that's that. Otherwise, give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. So let's get into this. The difference between living in the end and living for the end. So first of all, a lot of you can probably already recite what you think living in the end means. It is to accept that the end is already done, the end result. So if you're manifesting a relationship, it's that, okay, I accept that relationship is already done. If you're manifesting money, you accept, okay, I have all of this money. So it's as simple as that. But here's the thing, even though it's a very simple principle, you know how to recite it, to talk about it, you have trouble maybe embodying that. That's the big question. Like, well, how do I really embody, okay, that it's done? I know I have to accept that it's done, but how do I really accept that it's done? Like really accept that it's done? Because even though you've heard over and over again from me and maybe anyone else you watch that talks about manifestation, I guess I'll just speak for myself. I say, it's as simple as making the decision. You've made the decision that it's done, and then you have just let go of everything surrounding it. You've let go of anything about it being a problem. You've let go of circumstances that you used to think were a problem about your wish fulfilled being done. You've let go of your emotions being a problem to your wish fulfilled being done. So much of really living in the end is about surrender. It's about letting go. It's about giving up the fight of, okay, I am just no longer going to create a problem out of this, and I'm no longer going to be waiting for it or looking for it or thinking that there's something else I should feel in order to prove to me that it's done. You are trusting that there is nothing besides your own God level decision making to inform you that your wish fulfilled is done. You're not relying on your ego, that's your small self, to decide that it's done. You're continually trusting and surrendering to your God self, your higher self, that operant power self. That is what you are tapping into and deciding, okay, from that place, I'm surrendering small self, I'm surrendering all circumstances, because I know in my higher self energy, I'm continuing to trust that it is done. So this is a little bit of what it's like to live in the wish fulfilled. But before we get deeper in the living in the wish fulfilled, living in the end, I want to talk about what it looks like when you're accidentally living for the end, because this is a huge mistake I see a lot of people making, where again, it can look really similar. You think you're living in the end, but nope, you're living for the end. The bottom line is, when you are living for the end, you are living for the hope that the circumstances are going to change. You're basically living for circumstances. You're doing a lot. You're maybe forcing yourself to be really, really positive. And this is why living for the end can look really similar to living in the end, because sometimes when you're living for the end, you're in this state of like, okay, I just believe it's going to happen. I'm just so positive every day. I have a really good mental diet, and I'm really just knowing and believing and trusting that it's going to happen. It can feel like you're being really positive. It can feel like you're being really faithful in your mental diet. But the difference in the energy, and it's an important difference, is that you are doing something to get a 3D result. Remember, it's like living for the 3D. I'm living for that result that I think I'll finally get if I just perform manifestation stuff well enough. Because it really is that. It's like being positive in a performative way, or doing your mental diet, but again, in a performative way. Like if I'm just good enough, if I'm just positive enough, if I just have the best mental diet ever, then I know eventually I'll get rewarded with my 3D result. That's the kind of energy, that's the state of being that is behind this living for the end. And if you have been in this state of living for the end, it is so okay. Like, I so get it. I have been there, especially in the beginning of my manifestation journey. It's really normal to accidentally interpret manifestation knowledge and manifestation techniques and internalize it in that way, where it's like, okay, I'm going to be a really good girl. I'm going to do the techniques. I'm going to have a great mental diet. And again, you might even feel really positive for it. You might feel really confident. You might be like, yeah, I'm walking around this earth like I am so sure that my results are going to happen. But again, the emphasis is on the result, the 3D result. Too much emphasis is on the 3D result. And when too much emphasis is on the 3D result, you're still being controlled very subtly by the 3D. You're not living for your own energy of embodying the end is right now. You're actually living for, again, in a performative way of, okay, if I just keep being positive, keep being trusting, keep being surrendered, yep, I just know that eventually I'm going to get that shiny reward of the 3D. So I'm just going to try to keep being positive for that 3D reward. Again, that's living for the end. And if you have been stuck in that, I am so sorry. Again, I don't judge you for it, but it's important to be aware so that you don't fall back into it. Because another sign that you know you've been living for the end as opposed to in the end is when you're living for the end, you're still really reactive to 3D circumstances. This is just a trend I've noticed, that people who are really living for the end, they tend to be very reactive, very triggered very easily when it's like, oh my God, this bad thing just happened in my physical reality. And what the heck, I've been living in the end. I've been so positive for, months. And so how could this happen? How could this happen? That this physical thing that's like so the opposite of what I'm manifesting, how could this happen? And it's like this very reactive, like, oh my God, this was not a part of my plan. I can't handle this. There's a lack of acceptance. There's a lack of surrender towards the 3D. There's this very reactive kind of controlling, like this wasn't supposed to happen. There's almost like a little bit of an entitlement where it's like, I did my good girl work, or boy, if you're a boy, I did my good work and I deserve my reward. And what the heck, this circumstance was not supposed to happen. I don't deserve this. And I get it. Again, I get it. But that again is a sign that you weren't really living in the end. You were living for the end. You were trying to be positive in hopes that if you're just a good enough person, you'll be rewarded with this 3D thing later. And so it's still putting power in the 3D circumstance, proving it to you. It's not you embodying your own knowing of I am the end. The end is not out there in the 3D reality. That is how you really collapse timelines and shift reality, is you decide, I am so accepting of this current 3D, or I should say so allowing, where it's just like, whatever, the 3D can do whatever it wants to do. The people in my life, they can just be them. They can do what they need to do. I'm no longer putting any power over me in their behavior. This is a part of the paradox of manifestation, because when you really take all the power back from the 3D, where other people's behavior doesn't make you feel like, oh my God, I did something wrong. Instead, you're just like, yep, they do them. I am doing me. I am staying healthfully boundaried and contained in my energy. This is the energy that is mine, and I'm keeping myself at this level. I'm focusing on me. I'm claiming my energy. I'm claiming how loved I am, how adored I am, how successful I am, whatever it is you're claiming. But it's very self-sustaining. It's not about, okay, I'm going to be good and like really love myself, and then, oh, look, a result. I feel like in every video I do, I say this, where it's like, yeah, the annoying paradox is you get results. You get physical results when you drop the need for them. And this is why, especially in my upcoming videos, I'm going to continue to put a lot of emphasis on really dropping the 3D, like completely being allowing of whatever the 3D wants to do. We're not giving it any meaning, even the good stuff. I know this is going to sound kind of weird to you, but both the bad stuff, the stuff you used to label as bad in the 3D, but also the good stuff that you used to label as like, oh my God, I'm so glad that happened. That's amazing. Any 3D thing that you used to pedestalize, a part of becoming like a master manifester is kind of making all of it like, yeah, that's all 3D stuff. Like both the good stuff and the bad stuff, it's all just 3D stuff, and it still isn't that important. Like the good stuff, enjoy, of course, but it's like enjoy it, but then continue to let it go. Like don't get a good thing from the 3D and then cling to it. Like, okay, I got this. Now I have to make sure I don't let it go. We're always in this state of joyful surrender towards the 3D reality. And I say joyful because I want you to interact with your 3D reality in a very lighthearted, not so serious, like life is just life. This is the sandbox, the physical sandbox that we all came to this planet to play in. We're not taking it that seriously. We're not giving the good stuff tons and tons of credit. And we're also not giving the bad stuff tons and tons of credit. We're learning to take back our power from narratives. The old narratives that you used to always give. Okay, this 3D feedback always means this, and this 3D feedback always means that. When you're getting masterful at this, you stop doing that. You stop giving so much credit to the narratives around 3D stuff and how it happens and what happens. You are instead diligently taking care of, I am the operant power. That means I'm in control of my energy. I decide what I take seriously. I decide the energy level that I'm holding myself at, no matter how I feel, no matter what my circumstances are. There is room for everything within the wish fulfilled. This is another thing that takes a long time for the ego to get. Your ego has trouble fathoming that there's room for your old sadness, or room for anxiety, or room for a negative circumstance in your 3D reality. The ego has trouble with accepting, how is there room for that if I'm also accepting that my perfect loving relationship is already done? And ironically, part of living in the wish fulfilled is you're no longer trying to even convince the ego of it, because the ego doesn't need to even be a part of this. It's okay that the ego is confused. You are just accepting it and being like, ego, there's no problem to solve here. We are simply moment to moment accepting whatever I need to accept about myself and within myself, and also accepting whatever is happening out here, as if nothing out here is a threat to me, and nothing within me, including my old emotional sensations, nothing within me is a threat to me either. So I hope this distinction is really landing on you, because living in the end really means it is done. I am loved, I'm happy, I'm successful, everything is working out for me. I'm such a just loved, safe, good, healthy person. Add in whatever words you want to, and it is okay. It is okay if you don't believe that or if you don't feel it. Part of the manifestation process is that you are manifesting yourself to feel better as you continue to claim that. And you're not forcing yourself to feel better. You're going to accepting, okay, I'm claiming that I'm so loved and healthy and happy, and everyone that I love loves me back. I am claiming that. And even in this moment, maybe I feel anxious, maybe I feel a little bit sad, maybe my 3D is a little quiet right now, but I'm just going to accept that. I'm just going to accept that, and then also accept this higher surrender too, because that's really what it is. It's like you are surrendering to the truth, because the truth is that you are a loved, magical, healthy, amazing person. And so you're just like surrendering. I guess that's true. I guess that is where my higher focus is surrendering to. So again, even though there might be some weird old circumstances playing themselves out in my reality, I'm just going to allow that to happen. I'm just going to allow whatever needs to play itself out. I'm no longer going to fight it. I'm no longer going to react to it. I'm no longer going to pretend like if I'm just a good enough, positive enough person, that will magically stop any bad circumstance from happening to me. Because also, a bad circumstance is only as bad as the meaning you give it. This is the meaning of everyone is you pushed out. Everyone is you pushed out means that nothing and no one has any power to convince you from what you already believe. You are only capable of seeing what you already think you're seeing, if that makes sense. So for example, if someone you love takes 2 hours to text you back and you have a really strong reaction to, oh my God, like maybe you're spiraling about it because, oh my God, it's been 2 hours and they haven't responded to me. The circumstance itself of them taking 2 hours to respond to you is actually a neutral circumstance. It doesn't have any meaning except for the meaning that you give it. You're pushing out a meaning onto the circumstance. It's just a benign, neutral circumstance that someone took 2 hours to respond to you. You're the one pushing out this narrative, this energy, this story onto the circumstance that says, no, this is not good. This means the person doesn't like me anymore. This means I'm being abandoned. This isn't what they normally would do. This means they're leaving me. That's you pushed out. You can only see what you are doing in your own consciousness about that circumstance. But the bottom line is circumstances are benign. They could have a million different meanings. 10 people could have the exact same circumstance happen to them, and all 10 people would have a different pushing out onto that circumstance because all those 10 people have a different operant power consciousness that they're working with. You are only capable of seeing and accepting what your consciousness is capable at this level of accepting. So this is why it's so important to not be reacting to old circumstances with that meaning of like, oh no, this bad thing happened again. That means that this is bad and I'm not doing it right or I'm being punished. It's like, why are you pushing out that meaning? Instead, accept and allow whatever is happening out there to happen. Totally take back your power from it. We're deciding that it just is meaningless. It doesn't mean anything. We're not identifying with it at all anymore. Even if it's a super triggering circumstance, because I get it. Sometimes something happens that is like, oh, that's obviously a bad circumstance. Even in those moments, you are going to challenge yourself to say, nope, I am no longer making that mean anything about me. I love myself enough to not put myself through going back to the energy of, oh, this means I'm not loved, or oh, this means things aren't working out for me. We're just not doing that anymore. And again, this is what living in the end really means. It means I'm living in a reality where I'm nothing but loved. And even if a weird thing happens in the physical reality, I am not taking the bait on it. I am not leaving my end that I'm embodying. I am the end that is so loved. I'm not leaving that to go mess with the old timeline, the old reality where, oh, maybe I'm not loved because so-and-so isn't following my perfect narrative that I wanted them to follow. Well, now I'm going to decide, yep, that I'm definitely not loved. That, what I just said there, is an example of someone living for the end, where they're living for the hope that a particular narrative will finally play out in their 3D. And they're not accepting that it's happening right now. They're trying to be positive in hopes that it will happen in the future. But when it doesn't happen in the future, extreme disappointment takes over. And that's what I really want for you to snap out of. Where again, we got to be so accepting, so allowing of whatever the 3D is mysteriously going to play out for you. It's just going to play out. And you're not leaving your inner higher knowing of the truth that you have decided, this God truth that you are leaning on, that you are surrendering to, that's leading you. You're self-sustaining in that surrender to your truth, no matter what is happening out here. And you're not manifesting for the circumstances. You're not manifesting for them out here. You're manifesting for you. Again, it's like more the attitude of I'm claiming my energy because I deserve to be loved. I deserve to be secure and happy and just at peace with myself. And so that is the main prerogative. That's my main intention. And again, the irony, the paradox of all of this, I always say this, is that that's when you get faster results. That's when the 3D does shift really quickly and match you really quickly because you are so surrendered about the 3D. But here's the thing, even if the 3D wasn't quick, because sometimes people will hear me say that and then be like, oh, well, I really was doing it right and I still didn't get a quick 3D result, which again, it's like, if you're saying that, you weren't. You were living for the end. You weren't living in the end. But regardless, even if the 3D didn't give you a quick result, let's say you really are embodying, yep, here now and all the moments after now, I'm going to be faithful to my inner wish fulfilled no matter what. Even if you did that, and yeah, let's say 2 months goes by and you don't see a lot of change in the 3D, still doesn't matter. You're not dropping. You're holding your energy. You're realizing as a manifestor, you're responsible for holding your energy. Circumstances are never going to save you. You can change circumstances. You can influence circumstances in a big, big way, but they're never going to save you. They're always just like, okay, circumstances. This is why I'm saying letting go of both the bad and good circumstances. That, yeah, of course they're going to match you, but they aren't going to save you. You're not living for them. You're not living for the circumstances. You're living for, I'm responsible for me until my dying day, that I leave this weird 3D earthly planet and go back to wherever I came from. I am living for me, my energy, protecting my energy, holding my energy in the way that feels the best for me. And I'm never going to give my power away to a shitty situation or shitty circumstances. I'm never gonna try to get someone to love me in that way that can sneak into manifestation where it's like, oh, if I'm just a good enough manifestor, I can make them love me. That's another mentality I feel like I see a lot. And that's not the mentality we want to be in, especially if we're manifesting a specific person. It's instead, it's like, I'm amazing. And I'm only accepting into my reality a match to my amazingness. The focus is staying on you. And that's when the person will rise to meet you there. So my rant about this is long enough. So I'm going to wrap this up here, but I know this helped you a lot. Now I want to quickly talk about this group that I'm doing. So I am currently in Colorado and I have felt for a while like I'm really missing doing in-person energy work and manifestation work, especially with other women. So it just came to me. So we're manifesting it. That I'm going to do a group and it's going to start in January. It's going to meet in person in Colorado once a month until June. So it's like a 6-month container where every month we get together and I'm going to lead us through some manifestation exercises, some energy clearing exercises. And together we're going to be a really intimate group that is going to be manifesting, obviously for ourselves, but for each other and really magnifying the power of the manifestation. So if you are in the Denver, Boulder metro area or kind of around that like Front Range area in Colorado and you are a woman identifying person, Or as I said in the beginning of this video, if you know someone who is in Colorado who you think would be a good fit, then definitely send them the link to the form. So right now I just have a form to apply. I really want to make sure that it is the right group of people who are joining me for this. So there's just like a very short little application form for me to just get to know you and feel out your energy. In the form, there's also all the information about how much it costs and the details on how we're going to figure out exactly where we're going to be located. Because part of the reason I'm being kind of vague about the location is because we're going to intuitively find the location based off of what area are people most applying from, if that makes sense. So check out the application form in the description of this video. If you are interested in joining, just fill it out and see what happens next. All right, that is the end of this video. Please let me know your thoughts and comments about anything in the comments below. Let me know what came up for you with this. I just really want to drive home how important it is that we stop worrying about the circumstances and stop manifesting for the circumstances. As I've said before, I know that we got into manifestation work because we were obsessed with circumstances, but now it's really time to embrace that the circumstances will, of course, change, but only when we really just like let it go. We're not obsessing about them. We're not living for the change that we always thought we needed before. We're really realizing that the change is really internal. It's only internal. This is why Neville Goddard said, there's no one to change but self. This is not about changing the 3D. This is about changing you, the way you relate to yourself, the way you perceive yourself, the way you hold your own energy as you move about your daily life. So let me know your thoughts, your questions down in the comments below, and I will see you guys in my next video. All right, bye.